Simplemente darle las bienvenidas, esperemos disfrutar de esta semana y de los viajes y después de los cursos que van a estar brindándose en función de esta actividad que ha sido propuesta por el CIEFAP en aquellos años 2019, donde en el anterior congreso se postulaba a la ciudad de Esquel, al CIEFAP, para organizar este congreso. Okay. Now in English.
Come on.
That's a good joke.
Well, I would like to thank the institution that collaborate with the organization and logistics of the event. The municipality of Esquel will provide us with this beautiful Melipal Cultural Center to hold the Congress and support us through its different departments. And to Los Alerces National Park for helping us with the field trips and hosting us on Wednesday to explore its improvised environment and enjoy a wild asado. The Congress reflects the regional planning of CIEFAP's works line, as in addition to the planned activity in the scientific and technical space that will take place here in Esquel, include a trip through the province of Rio Negro and Neuquén, with activity organized in collaboration with technical referents, producers, and private entities from those provinces, to whom I also express my gratitude for their willingness and commitment. The celebration of this workshop in Esquel will bring together experts in truffle cultivation from Spain and Italy. Also allow us to organize a truffle cultivation workshop for producers, technicians, and those interested in the activity that will take place from May 2nd to 4th at CIEFAP campus. We have gathered over 180 participants from across the country, both in person and virtual. Lastly, on behalf of CIEFAP and the entire organizing team, I would like to express our gratitude for the through of the International Committee of the IWEMM, which endorsed and support the celebration of this IWEMM 11 in Patagonia, Argentina, led by CIEFAP, highlighting that is the first time this Congress is held in South America. I want to emphasize the efforts of the local organizing team in this time of crisis. Celebration this space of knowledge exchange, which encourages us to continue working towards a comprehensive and sustainable use of our forest environment. Thank you. Aplaudan. Aplaudan que puedo leer en inglés.
Seguidamente invitamos a dirigirse a los presentes por parte del Comité Científico Internacional al doctor Alexis Guérin-Laguet.
Now we'll listen to Mr. Alexis Guérin-Laguet as a representative of the International Scientific Committee.
Muchas gracias. Buenos días a todos. Good morning. It's such a great pleasure to be with you all today. And I would like to start by telling to all of us by what miracle we are here together. And there is a reason. And you know, there is there is symbiosis in this planet, which means that organisms can decide to live together and to be better. And a miracle is happening with most plants living always with soil fungi, and it's called mycorrhizal symbiosis. And there is a passionate group of scientists in the world working on this very important topic. And one day in '96, in the USA. Yes.
Yeah, my memory just has a limit. And just, I just can hold so many words in my mind. So if you stop once in a while, it will make it easier for me. Thanks.
Okay. Sorry.
No voy a poder, probablemente me pierda parte de lo que dijo, pero estaba muy contento de estar acá y nos decía que las micorrizas son algo muy especial en este mundo, la asociación entre los hongos y las plantas, y que bueno, de esto se trata este congreso, y veremos a ver si podemos tener una pausa un poquito más más a menudo.
Thank you. So, in '96 there was a workshop in a big conference on mycorrhizae where people who like edible mushrooms get together and truffles. And the workshop was so successful that they decided to create a workshop on this topic, and it was 28 years ago.
28 años atrás se hizo un congreso sobre trufas y también ahí ahí justamente se decidió, se notó que las micorrizas eran también un tópico súper importante y se decidió hacer un congreso sobre este tema.
So IWEMM was born in Berkeley in 96, and I like calling him, her IWEMM 0.
Se hizo en Berkeley en 1966 y, o no, más adelante, en 96, ahora sí. Se llamó A0.
And from there we went to Sweden, New Zealand, Canada.
Entonces, de ahí fueron a Nueva Zelanda, a Canadá, a Suecia.
Then Spain,
España,
China, Morocco,
Marruecos,
Guatemala,
France,
Francia, México,
Japón,
and we are here in Patagonia, Argentina.
Y ahora
How wonderful!
Ya estamos en Patagonia.
So very quickly, I wanted to express all my great thanks to the local organizing committee for all the hard work that was put into this conference. Very, very, very grateful. And also for all of you who come here, whether here or listening to us from miles away through the internet. And so really I would like everyone to enjoy this special time. Well, I had so many things to say about mycorrhizal fungi. I will not go into that. But yes, have a great conference, everyone. Thank you.
Estoy muy contento estar muy agradecido primero, antes que nada, al comité organizador local por el gran trabajo que se tomaron. Esto lleva mucha dedicación. A los presentes que han decidido dedicar este tiempo al evento, también a los que se conectan de manera virtual. Y estoy muy contento de estar aquí con ustedes y de esta manera estoy encantado de abrir esta juntada de gente que ama las micorrizas y los hongos.
Just one word I forgot. We should have been here 2 years ago, but a small organism decided otherwise. That's why we are now in 24, but well done.
Quiero recordarles que en principio íbamos a hacer este evento 2 años atrás, pero un pequeño organismo se encargó de que tuviéramos que posponer este encuentro.
Para finalizar, hará uso de la palabra las representantes del comité organizador local. Para ello invitamos a las doctoras Carolina Barroetaveña y a la doctora María Belén Pildaín.
Okay, now we'll listen to the local organizers, Carolina Barroetaveña and Belén Pildaín.
Bueno, buenos días a todos. Muchas gracias por estar acá. Bajo el lema Rescatando la biodiversidad y la multiculturalidad para el desarrollo local, este IWEMM11 llega a Patagonia, Argentina, el sur del mundo. Desde que conformamos con María Belén Pildaín la plataforma científico-tecnológica institucional de CIEFAP, Patagonia Fungi, Senderos y Sabores, venimos trabajando en el estudio multidisciplinario de los hongos silvestres comestibles de Patagonia. Luego de postular la realización de este IWEMM en Japón en 2019, hoy nos encontramos aquí luego de la pandemia, de muchos cambios en las reglas de juego en nuestro país, para compartir con ustedes estos días de reunión con el espíritu de poner en valor el rol de los hongos silvestres comestibles en la cultura y la economía local como protagonistas de nuevas oportunidades, velando por la generación de nuevos conocimientos necesarios para su gestión sostenible. Para ello nos hemos reunido aquí colegas de todos los continentes para compartir los avances y las novedades acaecidas desde 2019 a la fecha. Además de la exposición y discusión de trabajos científico-técnicos, realizaremos viajes de campo para observar distintos aspectos de la diversidad de las especies de hongos comestibles endémicas de esta parte del mundo, compartiremos las experiencias de productores, visitaremos truferas y emprendimientos que plasman el desarrollo local y la multiculturalidad en sendas micoturísticas y ofertas locales de micogastronomía. Esperamos y apostamos a que este espacio sea de reencuentro entre viejos y queridos colegas, de contacto con los jóvenes, la interacción con los productores y pobladores del bosque patagónico, que permita la coordinación de líneas de investigación, la generación de proyectos conjuntos, el intercambio y la difusión de experiencias académicas y científico-tecnológicas y la elaboración de eficaces estrategias de transferencia. Más allá de nuestro desarrollo profesional especializado, las personas que trabajamos en ciencia formamos parte de instituciones que viven estos días momentos de desasosiego e incertidumbre. Este espacio es también una oportunidad para visibilizar y ofrecer el fruto de nuestra labor, fortalecer los equipos de trabajo que representamos y agradecer el apoyo que recibimos. Now in English. Under the motto Rescuing Biodiversity and Multiculturalism for Local Development, this IWEMM11 arrives in Patagonia, Argentina, the southernmost part of the world. Since we create the institutional, scientific and technological platform Patagonia Fungi, Trails and Flavors with Belén, we have been working on the multidisciplinary study of wild edible mushrooms in Patagonia. After proposing a scale for this IWEMM in Japan, today we find ourselves here after the pandemic and with game rules that have changed in our country to share with you these days of gathering with the spirit of highlighting the role of wild edible mushrooms in local culture and economy as protagonists of new opportunities, ensuring the generation of new knowledge necessary for their sustainable management. For this purpose, colleagues from all continents have gathered here to share the advances and innovations that have occurred from 2019 to the present. In addition to the presentation and discussion of scientific and technical work, we will conduct field trips to observe the diversity of endemic species from Patagonia. We also share experience with producers, visit truffle orchards, and ventures that embody local development and multiculturalism in mycological trails and local microgastronomy offers. We hope and believe that this space will serve as a reunion for old and dear colleagues that foster the connection with the youth, with producers and settlers of the Patagonian forest. We also hope it allows to coordinate new research lines, generate joint projects, exchange and disseminate academic and scientific experiences, and develop effective transfer strategies. Beyond our specialized professional development, those of us who work in science are part of institutions that are currently experiencing moments of unrest and uncertainty. This space is also an opportunity to highlight and offer the fruits of our work, strengthen the teams we represent, and express gratitude for the support we received.
Thank you.
Well, I can see that all of us were using glasses, so
Yeah,
nothing.
we need to foster our
Yes.
relationship with the youth.
Bueno, buen día colegas, buen día equipo, buen día autoridades. Bueno, llegó el día de inicio. Como un gran divulgador de la micología que es Paul Stamets dice, los micólogos somos como mensajeros del micelio, que como sabemos es una red de filamentos de los hongos que están por debajo, por ejemplo, de nuestros suelos, de nuestros bosques, y que pueden formar enormes organismos. Los filamentos transfieren nutrientes e información e incluso tienen la capacidad de conectar plantas con animales, animales con bacterias, bacterias con plantas, y son responsables de crear un entrelazado muy pulsante. Además, los hongos pueden exudar enzimas masivamente poderosas fuera de sus cuerpos, que disuelven suelos. Son creadores de mundos y transformadores de mundos. Los hongos han demostrado que ningún organismo puede vivir individualmente. Es como una internet fúngica. que se comunica. Y eso es lo que espero que nosotros hagamos durante estos días, de la mejor manera que nos salga. En español, en italiano, en spanglish, en inglés macarónico, de la mejor manera que podamos. Así que bienvenidos a este IWEMM11. Bueno. In English now. Good morning, colleagues, dear team authorities. The big day has arrived. Paul Stamets, a great advocate of mycology, says that mycologists are messengers of the mycelium, which, as we know, is a network of fungal filaments that, for example, lie beneath the forest floor and can form enormous organisms. These filaments transfer nutrients and information and even have the ability to connect plants to the soil, animal to bacteria, bacteria to plants. They are responsible for creating a very pulsating interweaving. Additionally, fungi can exude massively powerful enzymes outside their bodies that dissolve the soil. They are creators of worlds and transformers of worlds. Fungi have shown that not organisms can live individually. This fungal internet communicates, and this is what I hope we will do in this day, in the best way we can, in Spanglish, in Italian, in Spanglish, and macaronic English, and also in Japanese, in Chinese, as you prefer. I wish you all of us a very successful IWEMM11. So,
de esta manera, entonces, ha quedado formalmente inaugurada la 11ª edición del Congreso Internacional de Hongos Comestibles Silvestres en la ciudad de Esquel.
With this, we officially inaugurated the 11th International Workshop on Edible Mycorrhizal Mushrooms. Okay, before we start with the meeting with our first speaker, I just let you know about our today's agenda. We'll have two sessions, one about biodiversity, evolution, taxonomy, and distribution of fungi, genetics, and genomics. And the second session will be about ecology and physiology. We are having two breaks each day, a coffee break and a longer lunch break, and also we invite you to visit the artwork which is exposed next door. And we also have posters for you to look at, and the authors will be available for answering any questions on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. The Carlos Pegazzini Association will provide a prize for the best volunteer paper and also for the best poster produced by our students. You have time until this afternoon at 5 o'clock to make a reservation if you want to visit our natural reserve, which is about just 3 kilometers from town. It's a really nice small lake. I recommend you to visit it. And the local Office of Tourism will be always here to help you with any question you may have about what places to visit in town and around the area. Okay, this is just the announcements for the agenda, and now has come the time for me to present our first speaker, which is Jesús Perez-Moreno. And before he starts, I want to say a few words about him. He's a professor at the graduate school of Texcoco, Mexico, and member of the Mexican Academy of Science. He was also an invited professor at the University of Sheffield in England and at the Chinese Academy of Science in Canning. He published over 150 papers, 18 books, 31 book chapters, supervised over 100 students worldwide. His 35-year research spanned over 31 countries, focusing on mushrooms, food security, and climate change mitigation. And with this, we want to give a warm welcome to Professor Daniels. Please.
Good morning, everybody. First, I would like to express that I am deeply honored to be here with you and with the people who is following online. This is one of the greatest differences of my whole life, and would like to deeply acknowledge the invitation from my beloved friend, Dr. Carolina Barro-Taveña, for inviting me to deliver this lecture. But also I am really very happy because of the organization of this meeting that a number of people really love very much. We used to call ourselves the IWEMM family. I have been following this scientific meeting during the last 20 years in different continents, but this is special because it's in a very hard time in the world, and particularly in Argentina, and I would like to express my deep respect to all the local organizing committee for keep going in not stopping our scientific meeting, whatever the weather. I am going to talk a little bit about different global issues and how the edible ectomycorrhizal mushrooms can contribute to the mitigation of these global aspects. My name is Jesús Perez-Moreno, and I come from Colegio de Postgraduados in Mexico. Not so far, just traveling southward from home to home, 36 hours. First, I would like to mention that following the Socratic tradition of defining a concept before starting any discussion on it, and I am going to define 4 concepts. Funga. Funga is a concept that paradoxically is just new. As early as in the 1960s, Robert Whittaker, in his classic publication in Science, one of the most prestigious journals in the world, defined that the fungi have its own kingdom. However, the formal term of funga was defined until 2018. And another important date was just 3 years ago when the International Union of the Conservation of Nature considered that we have to talk not only about fauna and flora, but about the 3 Fs: fauna, flora, and funga. Concept number 2, multiculturality. The multiculturality is a term that includes life forms of various groups of societies, including beliefs, sect, ethnicity, gender roles, and economic status. It's a very dynamic concept. And when I was preparing the talk in Mexico, this picture has a special meaning for me, because during the pandemic time, I was confined during 1.5 years in a small room. And paradoxically, this was one of the most productive times of my life, because I have plenty of time, nothing to do, just to be in the room. Because I have high blood pressure by genetics. But Christina, my wife, who is here and who has been following me all the time, not behind me, no, just along with me. And she's very healthy, and she was going to buy all the food, taking care of our 2 daughters, and taking care of the most naughty one son, which is myself, and useless, by the way, as well. And once I received the vaccination, I made a PCR test with the Chinese vaccine, and I have no antibodies at all before the vaccination. And I also made the PCR test 10 days after the vaccination, and the antibodies, wow, were superb. And then I say, now I am ready to go what I love. My ethnic groups in Mexico, we have 71 ethnic groups in Mexico, and one of the ones that I love more is the Zapotec people. And what I do love this group, because in science we have academic sons or daughters, grandsons, and Julie is my grandson, 3rd generation. That is great. And I visit her along with the family. It's amazing because these ethnic groups have been living in Mexico during millennia, acquiring huge knowledge of how to manage or have a more or less equilibrated relationship between nature and societies. And we have a lot to learn from them. 3rd concept, food security. This is the definition by the United Nations. Food security is a situation that exists with all people at all times had physical, social, and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food that meets their dietary needs and food preferences for an active and healthy life. Nothing far from the truth. We haven't reached this by far. It's very difficult challenge, but that is a very important point of reference, how to get to this point. There was in the year 2005 an extraordinary initiative by 2 photographers, Peter Menzel and Faith D'Alucio. In that year, they traveled throughout the world and took pictures of typical families and the food that they consume during 1 week. And look at this contrast. This is Yemeni, $500, full of highly processed industrial food. And look at the contrast of the world. This is people from a typical family, 2 daughters, 1 son, and I don't know if it's daughter or son, to be honest with you. But in Chad, this is the food that they consume during 1 week, and the cost at that time was $1.23 compared with these $500. We cannot talk about the fair distribution. Look at the global context. In the year 2020, according to the World Economic Forum, 2,153, I don't know if call them human beings. Only beings, let's say, accumulate the same wealth that 60% of the world population. 4 concept, sustainable development. The story and the creation of this concept started with what everybody knows as the Brundtland Report. And this is the definition that in 1987 they provide. It's the development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. The concept is beautiful, isn't it? However, it says the what, but it doesn't say the how. It's very utopic. During the last 4 decades, we have produced more than 100 definitions. But now there is an agreement that we have to take about the how. We have to take into account 3 main factors: the sociocultural context, the environmental context, and the economic context. I know about different initiatives around the world because I have been in 30 countries in the 5 continents. I have been very blessed, really. Not because I am rich, because I have met very kind people, really, very, very kind people. And if we don't take it, they are talking about conservation of fungi. And they consider that only taking into account the environmental factors, they will be able to preserve. This is doomed to fail. If you don't consider that in the planet there are people who need to be fed, there is no conservation. We have to take into account the socio-cultural conditions. It's not the same Yemeni than Africa, than Southeast Asia, than Mexico, than Argentina. And also the economical situation. And we have to recognize that these factors are very, very dynamic. And if you don't believe me, just try to understand what is happening in Argentina now, compared with the Argentina that we have some months ago. Completely different situation. We have to understand this. If we want to have a sustainable development, we have to take into account these 3 concepts. Otherwise, there will be no development. And there is a point of reference, like a dream. United Nations in the year 2005 defined 17 sustainable development goals. And the edible ectomycorrhizal mushrooms are able to mitigate 10 out of 17 of these goals. It's not so bad. I mean, fungi have becoming more and more important. And we listen this news that even they are able to grow in Chernobyl, in Russia. I mean, they are able to eat this radiation. They are able to contribute to the health of mental illnesses. This picture was taken in Nagano, in Japan. I mean, the year was 2019. And Professor Yamada is over here, I think. Professor Yamada, yes, okay. Arigato, Professor Yamada, because you provide us a wonderful meeting along with Professor Tanaka. We have really very beautiful meeting, not only scientific meeting. We visited a factory, I am going to tell you this story, where maybe 100 people produce 100,000 tons of enoki, which is Flammulina velutipes, or the winter mushroom. 100 people producing in a year 100,000 tons, because most of the processes were automated. And then we were very happy. I mean, continue with our science, we continue with our dreams in the IWEMM. And all of a sudden, this is the chronicle of a pandemic foretold. December 31, 2019, the World Health Organization country China, office in China, officially announces the presence of an atypical pneumonia in Wuhan, China, which started 2 weeks before. January 13, 2020, first case in Thailand. January 15, Japan. January 17, USA. January 30, 9,976 cases in at least 21 countries. By February 18, the World Health Organization announces an official name for this disease, COVID-19. And just 3 months later from the beginning, after 118,000 cases in 114 countries, 4,291 deaths, the World Health Organization declared that COVID-19 was a pandemic. The world would never be the same. The modern world will be completely different. And look at the size of this. My brother Alexei mentioned this. Very small. I am going to tell you how small. 0.1 micron. Something really very, very tiny. And look what this small microorganism, if we can call it, because we don't know if it's alive or not, because it's not able to reproduce by itself. It needs living cells, in this case human cells. The greatest global recession, a reduction of global economy of 6.1%, the greatest since World War II. Mental health effects. I know that here nobody was affected. No anxiety, no depression, nothing, no, but outside everybody was ill, including myself. Deaths, 15 million people in only 1 year, from 2020 to 2021, mostly in Southeast Asia, Europe, and the Americas. The total number of infected people has been estimated to be 775 million people. This is around 1 out of 10 of the global population in the world. As a consequence of this, a new geopolitical global arrangement arises. And we were able to see during this time the light of the human beings. This is Rosa, a nurse, the year 2020 in Brazil. We didn't know anything about the disease, but this old lady didn't have any human contact during 3 months. Imagine, no human contact. And Rosa, with a great heart, decided to give her a big hug. This is really touchy. Rosa didn't know if she was going to die because of this hug, but she decided to take the risk. These doctors, because this happened all around the world. This happened in Belgium, trying to take a sample to do the PCR if this patient was or not contaminated. They didn't know if they were going to die because of this. We saw the light of the human being. A number of doctors, a number of nurses, thousands of them die because they continue doing what they have to do. But we were also able to see the darkness, the most obscure darkness. Look what happened in Latin America. From March 2020 to March 2021, according again to the World Economic Forum, it was 1 year. These beings, not human beings, that accumulating all this huge amount of money, increase from 76 to 107 in Latin America. And their wealth increased double, from $284,000 million to double. This is the darkest part, taking advantage of the death. But if we consider that this is gone, we are wrong. This is what has been happening in the year 2023 to just some days ago. Cumulative cases, this is the total, but new cases, 111,000 new cases in the last year. Number of deaths, 661. This keeps going. And what about our beloved IUM? I mean, are we going to remain doing exactly the same? Or this touch on part of us? In my case, after being in lockdown 1.5 years, the mind changes. But we need, this is okay, this is okay. The world become very dark for me. And then I produced 20 papers in that time. I continue with my lectures. I was very lucky, me and my family. But not everybody was as lucky as me. For example, in the tourist, yesterday I was reading something like this. In the case of the tourist industry, the loss was 3.1 trillion American dollars. This means hundreds of thousands of people losing their jobs. Very dark time. And despite that, there is a group of Argentinian people that is working hard and have us the opportunity to be here, thinking about that. And I just would like to leave a small space, try to think, what can I do? I can tell you that everybody can do something. The worst thing that we can do is just to stop doing nothing. No, we have to change. We are alive, and that is a gift. If we don't believe in miracles, it's a miracle that we are here. And we know this because we lost relatives, we lost friends. There is no human being in the planet that lost a beloved one. And in the memory of those that are not with us, we have to change our way to see ourselves and our way to see the reality. During this time, I was looking for one example, not two, only one example where the extreme poverty was reduced during the whole human history. Just try to imagine one very inquisitive guy like myself in lockdown during 1.5 years. One. I didn't want two. Only one case in the human history where extreme poverty was reduced. And I found this example. There is a beloved Chinese friend, Mr. Wang Bing, who helped me to organize the IWEMM9 with providing money very generously. And I appreciate that, your very valuable help. It means a lot to me. Because you were really very generous with me, without meeting me, only by mail. Thank you very much, Mr. Wang Bing. But look at this, what happened in China. 1981, 88% of the population was living in extreme poverty. Extreme poverty has been defined by the World Bank as an income below $1.90 per day to pay rent, to pay food, to pay clothes, and to pay washing your body if you are lucky enough. 215, 0.7%. And these are not data from the Communist Party, Chinese Communist, no, are data from the World Bank. How was possible that in 34 years there was a reduction of more than 87% of the poverty? How they did it? And the only way to do this is not a tourist visit or a diplomatic visit. No, we have to live there. And then I took the decision to spend one sabbatical year living in China, being in contact with the company owners, being in contact with politicians, being in contact with rural population who live from the edible consumption of edible mushrooms, being in contact with scientists. And the answer that I found First time that I visited China was 17 years ago. By the way, when the IUM was organized there, beautiful IUM that we always remember, as my brother Alexis can confirm. ODS number 17, strategic alliances. Governments, local, regional, and national, scientists, companies, and society, we have to work together. I am very happy because I listened that here there are some authorities, there are some scientists, there are some people who dream in a better world. That was the answer that I found after 17 years being in contact with China. And now, what are the actions that we should take? We produced during this time a beautiful article. We published this in 2021. For those who are interested, the details that I'm going to mention are discussed in more detail in this article with people or friends, more than people, friends. And in Mexico we say that we have a family. We don't choose this family. No, no, no. Your father, your mother is it's given to you and that's it. But not your friends. You choose your friends. And the friends are the family that we decide to choose. And these are the family that I decided to choose. People working in the 5 different continents. And we have to take action. Not in the morning. No, now. Otherwise, we will disappear as a species. These are some ideas. During the meeting, we will listen more ideas. I'm sure about that. And I just don't want to abuse about the time. And first, to boost the establishment of successful edible ectomycorrhizal plantation. I took this picture in New Zealand, in Christchurch. And here I would like to show you a hero. Look what happened. In the company where he was working, my brother Alexis, the only important thing was money. If you don't produce money, you got fired. And that is what happened with my brother. But my brother has a great heart. And then he decided to start a company, Myco3. That is one of the sponsors of this meeting, by the way. And it's not because he's rich. Well, he's rich, but not in terms of money, but in terms of a great heart. And just remember something. There is only one truth that is for certain. There will be one day that we will start a journey with no back. And what we take along with us? Nothing. Nothing. We can accumulate huge amounts of money, and all the money will remain here. If we take conscience of this, we will change the actions that we will take. And my brother is like that. The sponsorship, yes, just starting his company. I mean, dreaming in a better world. Imagine the company, my brother was working maybe 10 years, brother, here. 20 years, imagine, 20 years of work. And do you know what the company did? They cut these trees, and these trees were a worldwide reference because they produce not only truffles, but also the milk cups, the Lactarius deliciosus. It is business, this. It can provide healthy food. It can absorb greenhouse. It can mitigate climate change. But for some people, the money is the only important thing. They are wrong. And here, IUM is a group of dreamers. We dream in a better world. We consider that we still have some hope, but we have to take action. Second strategy, action. Promote mycosilviculture. By developing by applicating forest management and including the cultivation of edible ectomycorrhizal mushrooms. It took 15 years of my life and the life of the group that I led in Mexico. And now we are able to produce Suillus caibabensis. It's the first time that I mention this in an international meeting. After 7 years, we produce this. Look at this. You can have, for example, Christmas trees. But this takes 10 years, maybe. But the mushrooms are produced every year. And you are producing a very, this is the callampa de pino. I don't know if in Argentina use the same name, Caro, than in Chile. Okay, callampa de pino. You can either eat it or you can sell it and export it. You can get food or you can get money according to your socio-cultural, economic, and environmental conditions. There is no strategy, a single strategy for every condition. No. It depends on every place, not only of every country, but what is happening in the region. First time that we cultivate a mushroom in the neotropical America, in the neotropical area. And look at this, Suillus pseudoverbipes. You can see here, look at this, no? 7 years later, we have trees. And in the year 6, the food bodies start appearing. Cultivation of Suillus pseudoverbipes. Apart from increasing the survival rate, look, after 1 year, in non-inoculated trees, the survival was 19. After 7 years, it was 0. The inoculated ones with this mushroom was 57 after 1 year and 50% after 7 years. But it's not only the survival of the trees. And look how healthy they look. But they also produce food and non-timber forest product. Is it possible? Of course that is possible to take action now. Imagine some universities say, okay, we have an innovation. You need, if you want to graduate in one country, then you need to plant a tree. No. If you want to enter into the university, you have to plant one tree, and one of the requirements for graduation is that this tree is alive. Yes. We don't need to plant trees. No. We need that these trees survive and they keep alive. We can change that. Of course that we can change that in the University of Patagonia. One of the requirements, apart from 500 in TOEFL and blah, 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 blah. Okay, plant one tree. One of the requirements for graduation, that the tree that you planted is alive. Is it not alive, you have to plant 100 trees. I have the honor to be working here and there, and the cultivation of some mushrooms is just amazing. We were following the track during 7 years of this elusive mushroom. We knew that it was producing huge amounts, a species of Rhizopogon. The people say, yes, it's producing huge amounts, huge amount, huge amount. We didn't find it. The secret, the production season lasts 2 to 3 weeks. And then we were traveling, and then 1 week we arrived with Wendy, Wan Ran, our beloved Wan Ran, very hard-working person and a great heart. When we arrived to China, along with my family, my 2 daughters and my wife, no Chinese at all. Only survival. And Wendy all the time was there. Great heart has Wendy. And one day we went to the market, wow, full, in the border with Vietnam, full of these mushrooms, hundreds of kilos. After that we went to the forest, Pinus amandi forest, and then full of this mushroom. We collect the mycorrhiza, and then Wendy made the synthesis of mycorrhiza of this, and with molecular work, we proved that Pinus amandi and Pinus yunanensis, produced exact were colonized with this mushroom. This is the beginning of a cultivation of a non-forest timber product in China. Third action, climate change mitigation. We have been working with this area during the last 30 years. But look, we don't need to produce only trees in the greenhouses. No, they have to go to the field. And we have a lot of herbivory. And then we use very sophisticated techniques. This is used for chickens in Mexico. Yes, and one student say, Professor Jesus, and why don't I have some chickens and it's difficult for the squirrels or things like this, I mean, to go in. Okay, then very sophisticated technique with this, with hundreds of trees, yes. With herbivory, 0%. And look, to mark the trees, very sophisticated. Plastic spoon. It lasts 20 years. I can tell you that, because yes. And with a good marker, is Red Rock is the brand. Okay. I hope not to have problem because of the copyright with Caro. But we escalate the way. The challenge 30 years ago was how to produce a technique that was cheap, that at the same time was efficient, and at the same time was cheap, efficient, and feasible. If you have sophisticated techniques for poor population, there is no way to apply them. And then we escalate this. These are ground cups of mushrooms, edible ectomycorrhizal mushroom. This is a commercial fruit dehydrator. These are the dry pilia. Look, electric mill. And this is the inoculum from edible ectomycorrhizal mushrooms. One bag has, let's say, 1 kilo. With 1 gram is enough to inoculate 1 plant. Here is inoculum enough to inoculate 1,000 trees. 1,000 plus 1,000 plus 1,000, 10,000 or 20,000 here. Look at this. 1,000 each bag. 20,000 trees. Very simple technique. It took 30 years to develop this. It was worth every single second. And now we are moving how to do this in an industrial way. And then we are using different biopolymers. And we consider that alginates were the best. No. Chitosan santan is the best. This is the matrix of the biopolymer. And look how the spores are preserved. And this is the matrix of the biopolymer. With this, we can produce these pairs, but we have to prove if it was efficient. And the simplest way to prove the efficiency was to establish greenhouse experiments that took 1 year. And after 1 year, we know that this was having an effect. This is the starting point of an industry, because the shelf life can be extended. We are using also other techniques. So some students, the students are very creative, really very, and they say, Professor Jesus, and why don't we try with fresh mushrooms? Only we cut the cups and we use a mill, a house mill, a blender, and then we apply this directly. Poof, we apply this half price compared with the dry ones. And it's working really very, very well. The more than 20 species. This is new. By new, I mean 5 years of trials. In total, we have tested 130 combinations in experiments that last 2 to 3 years. Imagine, what 130 by 2 is 260 years. And even when I look more or less that age, I am a little bit younger. How to work with this? Teamwork. That's the key factor. One student used the result from another, but plant new experiment. And we always respect the co-authorship, and everybody is happy. And look at the difference of these combinations. Just some examples. Quercus, Pinus, we have 72 taxa of pines and 160 species of oaks. And almost in every combination, and this is a person that has been along with me during the last 23 years. The women are, I respect the women. They are very tough. And we have here a very tough woman who is sit over the two women. I mean, okay, no sponsorship from this place, no problem. We will sort it out. How? We will see on the way. And I would like to ask big applause for them. Really, big. Yes. Very tough, very tough. For my humble person, it's big honor, my beloved Carol, from the bottom of my heart, to be here just sharing these ideas because of your hard effort. And also a big applause for the local committee that are projecting this, working. I know that they are receiving a very big salary, of course. Yes. Yes, maybe a 10 in the note, in the grade, yes. And then there was one ex-friend, colleague now, that said, what you are producing is rubbish because it's not very real science. And I say, okay, you mentioned that. I consider that it's working. And there was 1 year, because you say you have to produce full bodies. And I think that I'm getting closer to my time. Okay, then I will close. Last ideas. Okay, look. Sorry? 19 minutes. Okay, this was I started a little bit late. Yes, 19 minutes. Thank you very much for that. Okay, 20 minutes. Let me see. Is 10:20, 10:40. 10:40 I will finish. Is that fine, Caro? 10:40 is okay. 10:40 I will finish. Okay. Look, what happened? Full bodies. If we inoculate Eveloma mesophyllum, which I know that is known as the poison pie, but in Mexico we eat that. In Mexico we eat everything. I mean, yes, everything, and everything includes everything. Imagine 150 edible insects. Yes. More than 500 wild edible mushrooms. We eat everything, really, honestly. When we inoculate Lacaria, and we made some funny experiments. We inoculate Lacaria and then Eveloma, and then look, full bodies from 2 of them. And this is the colonization rate, because remember, it has to be efficient. That was from the beginning the idea. 100% of colonization with these very simple techniques that can be applied anywhere in the world. And look, these are the colonization rates that we made molecular tools as well. This is Quercus with Lacaria, oak with Lacaria. These are, we have a number of species of pines, and 80% of the wood that is produced in Mexico comes from pines. Pinus oaxacana with Lacaria, Pinus gregi with Lacaria, Pinus pseudomonas with Eveloma. But how to keep alive a tree? And that is why my recommendation is that the University of Patagonia, it should be one of the requirements, but in a very humble way. Drought, fires. What we need is resilience. The workers, PhDs, PhD students, Master of Science students, and Professor Jesus helping as well. This is just some weeks ago. And look, no winter rain this year. Very high temperatures around the world. Just breaking records. Then what plant needs, these little babies don't need to be only planted. They need to be, we need to take care of them. And then I pay for this, and my disciples and friends start doing this irrigation in order to survive. These trees are 15-year-old, growing in very poor soils. We need to be there in the right moment. That's the important thing. We have to promote sustainable harvesting techniques. There are some communities, and we don't have to do experiments. Some communities collect in buckets, and they collect the whole fruit body. There are examples, for example, in China, where there is a very famous mushroom there called gambayum or matsutake. In some years, poof, decrease, no business, no food for people, no money for companies. It's the way they harvest. And we have other communities nearby to these communities where they use baskets, and they harvest using knives, and have these beautiful mushrooms. Look, this was cut with a knife. It's easy to see. They cut with the knives. Here, no reduction in production. It's very simple biology. They are dispersing their spores. Remember, the only function of a food body is to produce spores, which are the equivalent to seeds. With this, they are dispersing the spores. And with this, they are keeping the mycelium, or the body of the mushroom, alive, because they are not disturbing it. No need to do experiments. This is evidence, very clear. Also, we need to teach to the people how to add value. And this needs technology transfer, particularly in low-income countries. Look at this. Very sophisticated dehydration techniques. Look, plastic, and they are really very good carpenters. They produce this very, very easily. And look, these are the reagents in my lab. We expected maybe 10 or 15 people. There were 55 people. Just trying to look. And there is a chef, which is Noema, how to do brines, pickles, vinaigrettes, jams, teas, flowers, nutraceutical foods. A number of... The creativity of the women is amazing because they know how to do it. Now we are doing cheeses with mushrooms. Because some people say, I know how to do cheese, and I have been adding some hairs of things like this. And they say, can I add mushrooms? We say, yes, you can. And then we went there, and they start adding this. And remember, the mushrooms not only are very nutritious, but they also produce bioactive compounds that help our health. This is pandemic time. The Annus Horribilis 2020. And one of my PhD students say, Professor Jesus, I am going to continue providing this technology transfer in my town. Even if I risk my life, I will go there and will teach the woman. And we have found something really very interesting. If we provide a small diploma, the women, these poor people, put the diploma in their houses. I participated. One scientist came, and I took this. I am able to produce it, but they were able to have this knowledge already. But with this small piece of paper, they just are very proud with their neighbors. Look, one scientist came, and I take this course. And for us, this is nothing. Even we can pay with our own money. This is no problem. Even if we don't have projects, and we have to be empathic with other people. Sixth action, fair trade with local and regional communities. This is an amazing example, and I am really very sorry that I was not able to find women, because we're men and women. We provide one course, and 2 weeks later, they were already applying this with these dehydrated mushrooms in the Tlahuica people. The people who was in Mexico maybe remember this amazing group. Okay, they were selling this, and they were selling also this, mermelades and this, and they did really very good money. And we have to recognize that for poor people, this means the difference between survival or no. Mycotourism and mycogastronomy, there will be a whole session, and I am not going to talk about that because otherwise my beloved friend Caro is not going to invite me anymore to any other meeting. But, okay. Look, establishment of partnership for the goals. Let's follow the example of what is happening in China. And I deliberately let this in Spanish for our Spanish-speaking people. It's very easy. Scientists, companies, communities, and government, we have to make the effort together. We have no other option. Multiculturality influence the strengthening of mycophilic identity. That is for sure. I can tell you that. People feel very proud when they know 10 minutes. Thank you very much for that. Now, is it possible to use basic knowledge of edible ectomycorrhizal mollusks to mitigate global problems? I am going to show, to finish the talk, one example of something that I have learned just in the last year, just before being in lockdown. We are going to collect, if we are lucky, Cortinarius magallanicus and Ramaria patagonica and all these mushrooms. We consider that is one species. Not far from the truth. It's not one species. Are thousands of species. Let me disappoint you. This is the full body of Amanita basi. Is not one species. There are thousands of species because it has a microbiome. We made this study with the Chinese Matsutake. In the different compartments, we call this the pili-pelis, we call this the cup contest, the style contest, different part, different microbiome, different microorganisms. We made beautiful study and unique study with truffles, and we use very sophisticated techniques that are called network systems. And look at the networks. There are groupings that we call modules, there are small groups that we call nodes, and there are links. Some of them enjoy living alone. Others enjoy living in couples. Others enjoy living in great agrupations. These are thousands of species, and with this kind of analysis, we are able to see how they aggregate. Now, something very important. There are some groups, for example, this is the soil. The peridium is the layer that covers a truffle. And this is the soil adhered to this layer. This is the peridium, and this is the gleba, that is the inner part. When we move from the soil to the inner part of the mushroom, these are hypogeous mushrooms, mushrooms that grow underground. And look what happened, for example, with that actinobacteria. Very abundant in the soil, inexistent inside the mushroom. The mushroom choose. It's just like the family that we choose. It's just like the friends. Here is the family that was given to us. This is the one that we choose. In the case of other groups, this is the family that we were given, and poof, this is the one that the mushroom choose. Gamba-jung, very expensive technique, DNA hybridization in order to study the whole microbiome. It's my daughter, sorry about the pajamas, but they hate mushrooms because of this. I say, I need a picture, and you say, I am very sleepy, Daddy, come here, only one picture, please. And I say, okay, Daddy, I will go. This is Sarah. We made this 30,000 genetic species. It's not one species, it's 30,000. And along with 30,000 functional genes. Then what we are going to collect, let me tell you, that is not Cortinarius magallanicus. It's Cortinarius magallanicus plus his friends. Thousands of friends. And how to apply this? This is Lactarius neosalmonicolor, according to my beloved Roberto, that is over there. And, yes, where is Roberto? You are here, Roberto. Okay, yes, you can correct me. Then, as we know that this species plus the friends. Then we isolated one microorganism, one bacteria. We made the whole genome, year 2023. Remember, we have to take action, but we don't have too much time. We have to activate our minds. And then we isolated Pseudomonas yamanorum, which, by the way, first time that was isolated in the south of Argentina. Yeah, I was very happy. Whole genome, and we compared the whole genome, and after that, it contains the genes in order to solubilize the phosphate in the soil. And then it has the potential to act as a plant ground promoting bacteria. But the best ideas in science are not in the brain, but with the proofs. Look, this is the bacteria that we isolated. After that, we produce the inoculum and start inoculating this. The PhD work of Yvette. Remember, I work in team. My team is composed by around 20 people, among PhDs, postdoctoral studies, PhD students, and Master of Science students, and of course the young, the undergrads. They produce beautiful ideas. Pinus embroides, without bacteria, with the bacteria. Pinus ayacawite, without the bacteria, with the bacteria. And Pinus oaxacana. Look, one bacteria, now a mushroom is not seen only as one species. It's a reservoir, a genetic reservoir of beneficial microorganisms that can be used to increase the forest production. But now some friends say, Jesus, your pines are growing very healthy with this bacteria. Then can you allow me for corn, for beans, for squash? Of course, it's for that. And now they are having incredible results. A mushroom is a genetic reservoir of microorganisms. It's the first time that this is seen in that way. Genetic reservoir of microorganisms that can be used to have and to increase the growth, the nutrient contents, and the production of agricultural, and then to produce food. That is inside the mushroom. In a very short period of time, we have the evidence of this. This is inedit, by the way. And here is the heroine. Another applause, please. Okay. It's in Mexico. Yes. Look. First line. I think that she was thinking, one day I am going to organize a meeting like this in a scale, and a very successful meeting in a very hard time, really. And I would like to finish just with this. We need to understand that there are local development, but the world is globalized. We have to accept that. But we need to change the relationship between nature and human cultures and societies. We need solidarity, empathy, innovation, and reinvention. And finally, in memoriam, this talk is in memoriam, and I don't want to speak because I am going to cry. Pierre Sussat just started the journey that everybody is going to do sometime. But I would like to finish with this. Rabindranath Tagore. Remember, inspiration comes from our... Okay, it's in English for the English readers, but I am going to use, not Spanglish, but in a very cynic way, real Spanish. This is Rabindranath Tagore, a Bengali poet, and a beautiful poem that is called The Paperboard. It says that. Todos los días echo mis barcos de papel al río, donde flotan y uno tras otro son arrastrados por la corriente. En ellos he escrito con grandes letras negras mi nombre y el nombre de mi pueblo. Confío en que alguien los encontrará en un país lejano y así sabrá quién soy. Cargo mis barquitos con flores de chiuli, cogidas en nuestro jardín, y espero que estas flores abiertas al amanecer tendrán la suerte de llegar al país de la noche. Después de haber echado al agua mis barcos de papel, levanto los ojos al cielo y veo que las nubecillas perpetuas son velas blancas y combadas. Tal vez algún amiguito juegue conmigo desde el cielo, lanzándolas al viento para que compitan con mis barcos. Cuando llega la noche, hundo la cabeza entre mis brazos y sueño que mis barcos de papel bogan sin cesar, cada vez más lejos bajo la claridad de las estrellas de la medianoche. Las hadas del sueño viajan en ellos y llevan por carga sus cestos llenos de ensueños. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
We have some time for questions. Please, your hand up so I can see you.
If somebody wants to speak in Spanish, no problem. You can make the question in Spanish and I can translate a summary in Spanglish or Esquel English.
I can do that also. Yes.
Merci beaucoup, muchas gracias, brother, for this wonderful journey.
De rien, mon cher frère.
Science, humans, and great value that we all need, and the planet even more, for our future, for everything. Just one small scientific question. I love the demonstration that you made that some microorganisms living within mushrooms can themselves help the trees. So the photo you show were just bacteria was present, correct?
Just bacteria, but we also made some experiments with bacteria plus ectomycorrhizal and mushroom, and there was synergic effect.
That's what I was about to ask. Thank
Yes.
you.
Remember, in nature, the microorganisms work in team,
Yeah.
not by their own.
Yeah. And 1 + 1 = 3 often in nature.
Yes, 1 + 1, 4 or 5 or 7 or 10. Yeah.
Hi, good morning. I'm Sara Di Leonardo from Italy. Just one question. Thank you for your speech. Really, yes, impressive. Just one question about your studies. What about the biodiversity? How these inocula could affect the biodiversity of soil in terms of soil fauna, so mesofauna, and other bacteria and fungi?
Yes. We have made some studies, but basically what we chose, 70% of the soils of Mexico are affected either physically, chemically, or biologically. And then we need to restore these soils. And then the places where we work are places where basically there is no soil. And then, of course, that there are some influence of the local microorganisms, but we have to restore them. We don't work in forest, because of course that in the forest we can produce maybe some invasive species. But then if 70%, remember, we have destroyed 70% of the surface of the planet, and then we have to restore them. It's time to restore. Of course that there will be changes. And it's not logic to work in a forest that is, in good conditions. But if a soil is almost destroyed, of course that is what I show in the pictures, as you see. That is my answer and my point of view as well. Thank you for your interesting question.
Thank you very much for I'll ask in English. Thank you for a magnificent and very inspiring talk. I did have one question, and maybe I misunderstood, but when you showed the slide of the SDGs, you didn't have SDG 2 circled or highlighted, which is about food security, hunger, and so on. And I wondered if you could expand a little bit, if maybe there's a reason why you didn't have it circled, or if perhaps I'd be very interested in knowing where do you see the direct and indirect contributions of mushrooms to global food, to solving hunger?
Yes. Thank you very much for your very interesting question. I think that, to be honest with you, the strategy that we are following with edible ectomycorrhizal mushrooms influence the 17 OEDs. But we have to be humble and basically I just circle the ones that have the direct influence. But of course that everything is connected, and to tell the truth, we influence the 17 ODAs. But thank you for your question.
Okay, here, Jesus. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Eskel English.
Eskel English, yes. Thank you very much for your inspiring talk. I wanted to ask you about the Pinus species and how you're planning to restore that area. Are you considering, because most of those you showed are native Pinus from Mexico, so you are trying to respect like the distribution kind of and the species of mushrooms? Are you taking that in consideration, or just producing something? Which I agree with that, because in destroyed environments, it is okay if you just can't maintain the soil, which is sometimes a problem. So
yes, thank you very much, Caro, for everything, and I will answer with a lot of happiness your question. We have been following two strategies. If a soil is completely destroyed, we try to restore it with what we have. That's the first strategy that happens in some places. If we have the history of the place, then we only use species that were native in the past, before the destruction of the soil. We have to be very careful and responsible in that way. These two are the strategies that we are following.
Yes.
You can ask in Spanish, I mean.
Pues muchas gracias, hablaremos en español.
No. English.
No, thank you so much for your inspiring talk and conference. Thank you, Carol. And thank you for, I thought we were going to do a kind of interaction, sharing ideas, scientific presentations, and also complementary activities. But maybe we can go directly to the complementary activities, because you talk about everything. So it was wonderful.
I'm very sorry about that.
It was wonderful your talk in this regard. Just one curiosity, because as you know, we are also trying to develop some works in developing countries. My question is, I know Mexico, because you do the presentations and you talk about this in the previous meetings, is a hot spot for talking about this resource. And also regarding the link between the rural communities, so the local people with this resource. And my question is, did you get, if we want to scale this idea and to use the mushrooms like a tool to, useful tool to the food security, no? And scale this in a more global scale. Did you find rural populations who were not so mycophilous, and you found that, did you follow any specific strategy or way to manage this? Because of course, if the people is loving mushrooms, so they accept from the beginning. But sometimes, you know, everywhere there are people who loves, but there are people who is a little bit scared, no? So please let me know. We will talk in the specific part of the Congress, but just a curiosity. Thank you, Jesus, as everybody.
Yes, yes, Pablo. Thank you very much. You have a very bright mind, because you are asking a question that is going to be answered in the last talk that I am going to give. I mean, at the end of the meeting. But just very briefly, I would like to mention one community, because this has been done, the work in the last 5 years, with the funding from the Mexican Council of Science and Technology. And now there is a lot of attention, particularly in the very poor people. You saw the difference. I mean, huge gap in the world. And of course that in Mexico there are a small number of very, very wealthy people and huge number of very, very poor people. But now the government is paying attention in these very poor people. And then we are doing something that is called social incidents. And also there is a cultural erosion in these very poor people. Cultures are basically disappearing. And then I would just give you an example, and I promise that you will have more information to your question in my last talk. But we arrived into a community, we started some studies, and there were only 25 edible species because there was huge cultural erosion because of acculturization and deforestation mainly, and migration as well. And also all this accumulated in knowledge was accumulated in all people. Now they consume, after 4 years, 100 edible species. I mean, from 25 to 100. And the way to show this was very simple. We went to the forest, collect the mushroom, eat them, and they were very curious. Next day, we were alive and happy. They say, it's edible.
Thank you very much, Jesus. We